day two of the Gamma Lab for the 2025 Scale with AI Summit.
I think a lot of you were here yesterday, but like a brief recap of like who we are, what we do. Gamma is a platform that is best known for AI presentations, but really our mission is to help people bring their ideas to life and help make content creation and communication beautiful and visual and possible for people who don't have the time or desire to design skills or technical skills, but have great ideas, like all of you. So yesterday we went through all of these, which is like amazing. It's like a lot of content to cover. So I showed you guys how to generate in Gamma using our standard generate flow, some of our more advanced flows like paste in and import. We talked about themes and branding, AI images, and I also showed you some other tips and tricks. So if you have any questions from yesterday, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can cover them at the end. And today I'm really excited to show you some of our like newer features and things that maybe we're not as known for, but that are really born out of these desired paths that our users have created. So we're making a presentation software, but along the way, a lot of our users started making things like a landing page. And they're like, hey, I used Gamma to make my website. Like, how can I publish this thing? And we were like, oh, that's a presentation. Let us think. And from there, we shipped our websites feature. The same thing happened with the social media carousel feature. This is one of our most recent launches. We saw that people were making social media carousels in Gamma, and they were asking for more functionality to make their cards look really nice on social, have a square format. And so we are really about meeting people where they're at, making software that serves their needs instead of asking them to make what our software can do. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys think of social media carousels. I'm going to show you some more awesome features and then some more like tips and tricks that I use. And along the way, like if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And Deo and Darby, feel free to interrupt me. But for right now, I'm just going to show you a couple more examples of real use cases of Gamma in the wild. This is a website that I found for a school. This is really cool because it just has an incredible amount of content in it. It's really in depth. This is like a really nice looking footer. If you go to any of these pages, there's just like such like a wealth of like content and knowledge in here. And I think this is an amazing example of how if you want to make something more robust with a lot of detail and a lot of context and a lot of nesting, Gamma is a great platform to do that. We have all these nested disclosure features that I talked about yesterday, like these toggles and these nested cards. And this is a great way to show your information, show a lot of information to your audience, but organize it in a way where it's not too overwhelming. The next thing that's really cool is this LinkedIn post. And this is a social media like carousel made in Gamma. And this author did a great job of customizing, like adding her own diagrams, really like making use of a lot of Gamma's features to get something that is like really cool and did pretty well on LinkedIn. Um, I got one more link. I got my personal favorite is I made a website for my dog. So this is just it's something I really recommend if you want to get comfortable with Gamma and the platform is to just make something fun. Make a personal website about something that you like, make a website for your pet. I can talk more about goes into this and all the formatting and layout, but I think it's just like a really fun little side project, something to break up the day. Um, I got one more LinkedIn post for you, another social carousel. I don't know what happened with this tab, but here we are. And this is a more traditional square carousel with stats, headings, stuff like that. But and another example of things that people have been doing with this feature. And then one of our OG Gambasters, Jordan Crawford, has been one of our original like website customers. So he was pushing us from the start to do websites. He was maybe the first published domain on Gamma, and he's used Gamma to represent him and his business online for over a year at this point, which is pretty amazing because that's just about how old the feature is. And we're like excited to see where else he takes this. So yeah, those are my examples for today. I hope they were inspirational for you. And yeah, let's generate a website. So you can generate a website in a pretty similar way to the other like formats that I showed you yesterday. So you can start by just hitting generate. You're going to switch the artifact to web page, and you can see that the examples here change based on the artifact that you've chosen above. So again, if you're looking for examples, you're just not really sure what to make, I would just play around with the artifacts, kind of shuffle through them and see what comes up. You can always like add one and then swap out the content for something a little more interesting for you. So let's do a landing page for a entrepreneur who like helps people get hired in tech.
And also, before you go too deep, we have a question.
Yeah.
Alison, could you integrate a blog into a website built using Gamma? How about integrations with lead pages?
Ooh, let's see. So I would say that a blog, that's something we're interested in exploring more, having natively. I'm not gonna promise that we're doing it, but we have heard appetite, and personally, I have appetite for that. For now, I think probably what would be easiest is to build your blog in the blog platform that you're most comfortable in, and then have your Gamma landing page linked out to that. You could also embed your posts into cards. That might not be the most optimal viewer experience. Deo, do you have any more experience with that? You might be a little more qualified for that question than me.
Yeah, we don't have a great way to create a blog within Gamma sites right now, is my understanding. So yeah,
Yeah.
using your other platform and linking to it from Gamma sites would be the way to go for now. But I agree that it's on the radar and there's interest.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit right now by just making a couple blog posts to show the team. And I think what's really powerful for us is people trying to create things and having that visual of, oh, wow, they're so close. Like, how can we help them like get all the way?
The
Mm.
second question was integrations with lead pages.
Ooh, integrations with lead pages. I think that right now we, again, typically rely on embeds, but what have CX been recommending lately for that?
It's just like you can use like forms like Typeform and stuff like that to get leads, but yeah, in terms of
Yeah,
integrations with like lead pages, I don't know.
yeah, I would say like more advanced, if any more advanced like functionality from like lead magnets. We're not optimized for that right now, but people have had success with embedding forms. And like I said yesterday, having like native forms is something we're definitely interested in. It's just about building out the infrastructure to do that. But I am planning on showing you how to embed a form into Gamma in just a moment.
Okay,
Um,
thanks,
but
Allison.
oh yeah, thank you, Dale. We picked a theme, same steps as yesterday. We got text per card, images, image model. I'm gonna switch up the image model just for fun. And we're gonna hit generate. And it's gonna look pretty similar to what we saw yesterday, but I'm gonna point out a few key differences that happen when you generate a website versus any other artifact in Gamma. Um, the first is that you'll notice there's a header up here. We'll go back to that in a second. And then Gamma is also going to know that you wanted a website. So it'll choose layouts and set up the page in a more website-y fashion. It includes more like content, like it more quotes and content that is more specific to a website and the type of website that you're making. And it adds like things like CTAs and let's connect sections by default. So um, now we have a website. You are going to notice that the cards look a little bit different. So I touched on this a tiny bit earlier or yesterday, but what's happening here is websites by default will use these things called full bleed cards. This is basically the same as your hero section in a website builder. It's just going to make the card span the full width of the screen. You're not going to have any sort of background behind it. These are really great for sort of high impact sections to break up your site. Now, Gamma is an AI, obviously, and not like an actual visual designer. It can get pretty good. So if you are using things like this, actually it did pretty good here. It changed the color, but you can change the background color of the card, and that will give you some more of that like high impact like visual when you're scrolling through. Let me show you how to how to modify your website header. So we have a couple of prefab like defaults up here. The first is the logo. So you can click on it, it'll open up the image media picker. And assuming that you have your own logo, you can just upload it here. It'll show. But if you just want to generate a placeholder, like that's an option too. And we'll just do that for now. And we'll let it run. But you can also add some links. I'll get back to this in a second, but once you create multiple pages, you can add links to the other pages in your site here. If you wanted to link out to a separate site or a blog or something, this is also how you would do that. You would just paste the link in here. And then you have a button perfect for CTAs. Something that I will often see people do is putting their email, putting their social handle in here. And if you want to have a button that links to your email, what we usually recommend is writing mail to and then your email, so whatever. And when someone clicks on this link, it'll open up their email client and start sending. So this is the basics of how to set up your header. By default, when someone clicks on this header, they will get linked back to the homepage of your site, and all of these buttons should link out to the places where you ask them to. There's a couple of things in site settings to be aware of too. So to get to your site settings, you're going to click on these three dots here. And I believe you can also get there by going into this menu by the publish button and hitting like add custom domain. But we'll go through the site settings drop down here. And this is where you're going to change your site's name. Say that my business is called like Jobs, like for Us or something. You can also upload your favicon. So you can just take that logo file, re-upload it. If you want to just have a single page site and you don't need that nav bar, you can turn it off here and it'll go away. And then if you have things like a Google tag or a Facebook pixel, you can add those in the site settings as well for some more analytics. At the top of site settings is the domain setup. You can add a domain that you already own, and Gamma will walk you through the process. It's pretty easy. And if you don't have a domain, you can purchase one through our domain partner directly through Gamma, so you don't have to go out and fuss with stuff. But we also will give you a sort of free domain with Gamma branding to test around with. Just make sure you like it. I'm going to publish this, and once I publish it, I can go hit view site and see it live. Whoops. So this is my site. It has a nice like animation effect by default, and I can just send this to anyone. And I am actually going to send this to the chat. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free. Now I'm going to show you forms because I think this has come up a couple of times. It's a pretty common question. It's a great question, especially if you're building a website. I prepared a very small type form to demo for you guys and a very small Google form. So like I was saying yesterday, you can insert things in a couple ways. The first is the insert bar over here. So I can click on form and drag in a type form block, or I can just type /form. And the secret behind these form embeds, actually most embeds, is that it doesn't really matter what the original embed type that you chose is. Gamma is really smart and can just adapt the iframe, the embed, to whatever you paste in. So if I choose Google form, right, I can paste in a type form like I'm about to, and it's still going to work. So don't worry about choosing the right source. Even if you have something that's not listed here, as long as it can be iframed, Gamma can probably support it. Now you see that I just have my form in my website. And I'm going to republish this. So this will show up on the link that I sent in the chat. And as a viewer, here's what that experience looks like. So it's embedded directly in, and you can type in your information and submit your form. It will show like the type form branding, especially like if you are on a free account like I am. But I think this is a pretty easy and fast way to get a form into your Gamma. And like I said, we are working on native forms, and it is something we really want to bring to the product. But there are a lot of great form builders out right now, and we would encourage you to just use those until we get there. It works pretty well. It's worked pretty well for most of our customers. So that's how you would embed a form. When you are ready to add more pages to your site, you're just going to click on the title of the site right up here. And there's a couple of good things to know about in this panel as well. So the first is that you can add a new page. Just click on this plus button and either AI will help you make the page. You'll just go through that same generate flow, or you can just add a blank one and create it from scratch. I'm just going to do create from scratch for the sake of time and getting to more content. But here you have your like second page. And once I have this page, I can show you the real power of the navigation and the buttons and the linking in Gamma. So what's really cool is that if you go back over here and I start typing page untitled, because I see that this page is called untitled. If I start typing untitled, or if I just look in this recent pages part of the drop-down menu, I can just click it. Gamma knows what pages are in this site, and we'll just offer them up for you as options to add to your nav bar. If you decide, actually, I don't want that one, just remove it. And then another great thing is that if you want to use like anchor links, you would be able to do that as well. See this list of cards, that's basically your anchor link. You can just click on that and it will go directly there when someone clicks on it. The other thing to know is that you can copy the card link. So if you click on the three dots by the card, you have a couple options. So there's duplicate, merge, copy, download, /export, and delete. If you hit copy card link and then you copy it into here, then it will go there as well and know that it's a Gamma card and know position the like screen needs to go to. So that's like the basics of getting your site set up, making pages. The last thing to really note here is that if you want to rename your pages or edit the URL paths, you're going to do that using the sidebar as well. So I got here by clicking on the three dots and then clicking on rename page or edit URL path. So now I can change this to like my fun page, and then I can change the URL path to like fun or something. This is where you're going to edit the metadata for the page. So I can write, hi, Darby. And then if I was to publish this on Google, that would be what shows up in the preview. And I can do the same thing here. So you can see that this is what it will look like on web search. We will automatically fill this description with the content of your first card. So you don't have to write anything if you don't want to. But say you do want to write something, this is where you would do it. And then we also offer the ability to take certain pages offline and preview or publish one page if you just made changes on one. So say I don't like this page anymore, but I don't want to get rid of it. I can just take it offline, and once it finishes spinning, it'll show in a separate section of offline pages. And now when I publish my site, this will not appear anywhere and that link will not work. I have used this before to just take down content that wasn't relevant or maybe that was being workshopped. Things that are not ready for prime time, things that are like not ready for launch, really useful for that. And I'll just quickly show you the preview mode. So I can hit preview current page, and now I'll get a preview of how the website looks on desktop, on tablet, and on mobile. Sometimes when you preview things in a browser for mobile, they don't quite look right. So I would preview it here, but then I would recommend actually just publishing the Gamma free domain and sending it to yourself and checking it out on your real phone, because sometimes we'll get feedback from customers that they don't like how their site looks on mobile, but then when they go to the actual phone, it looks great. So this is the 101 of sites in Gamma. Are there any questions about anything I just covered before I
Yep.
move on? Yeah.
We have questions.
Okay.
We'll start with one easier. Do you know if this will work with WordPress plugin forms?
Ooh, I would assume it would, as long as it can be embedded in iframe. I've never used WordPress plugin forms though, so I can't vouch for them specifically.
Yeah, and if it uses any kind of custom HTML, like you have to add this script tag to your site, that will not work. Gamma sites don't
Yeah.
allow you to add custom HTML.
Yeah, that's not something we offer right now. But if it can be embedded in iframe, you can do it.
And then we have a few SEO questions. One was things like alt text, keywords, titles, etc. Are they automatically created by Gamma? Can you manually edit those?
Alt text for images, we don't have a way to edit that right now. And I'm not 100% sure if that is generated. Sorry, what are the other things? Headings, tags.
Yeah, just like any SEO things like keywords, titles. I think the description on each page was one aspect of it, which you covered.
Yeah, there's the description on each page. We don't have a way to allow you to set these like more specifically yet. We that's good feedback that we'll bring to the team, but I think that it would just need to be like within the page itself, and get scraped up by a indexer.
Yeah, that's my understanding too.
Yeah.
Well, we have a preview question, or not really, but can you edit the tablet or mobile view separately from the desktop view?
No, that's not something that we offer right now. If that's something that you want, I would definitely be interested in chatting more about what you're looking for. Right now, our guiding philosophy is that we do the like tedious stuff for you. And something that I've always encountered is on making websites is that you get it looking really good on desktop, and then you have to futz around a lot to get the mobile version working. So again, like we've tried to do everything possible to make our websites look really good on mobile by default and make these things responsive. But if you do try out websites and you find that you aren't liking the tablet version or you aren't liking the mobile version, I definitely encourage you to reach out to our team and share what's not working and what you would want to edit, because that will really help us with A, what our defaults are when we transform things to mobile, and B, whether a mobile specific editor, a tablet specific like editing mode is something that we should explore for the user.
Yeah, and then we have a more of a different kind of question. But someone has a website now that I need to update quite a bit. Is there a way to grab the link of my current website and then get suggestions to upgrade it? I
Uh,
recommended import with AI, but do you have another approach,
yeah, I
perhaps?
think import with AI would be a great way to do that. I was actually going to cover that in a second. So what you're going to do is just go to generate and then hit import from URL. I think you can also do it here. Yeah, so this will just take you to the import screen, and you'll just enter your URL. And from here, um, Gamma will scoop up the text from your page. It's not gonna take like the visuals from your page. So if you have like specific visual assets or like colors, like it is not gonna be like one-to-one, but it will definitely use the text on your website to create something. What I would recommend is, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I would recommend using um this setting when you import. So when you import your site, you're gonna get put out into a screen like this, and it'll have all the content of your site in this box. If you like the words, the copy, then hit preserve, and Gamma is going to try to keep all of that text. We are working on now shipping a image source, an option to not add images. So if you don't want to choose any of these, you have your own assets from your site that you still like and you want to use, you will soon be able to select like placeholders or no, don't add images. And Gimel will just put placeholders wherever it thinks that like an image would work. Yeah, I would recommend trying import from URL. I think that's probably your best bet here. Definitely give us feedback on how it works, how you like it, like what things you're expecting to come in, what things you want to happen, what you like, because we're excited to hear feedback on that as well. That feature is also recent. We're still gathering thoughts about it. Yeah, any other websites, questions?
I think we've covered most of it, unless George still wants to ask. He had a question about embedding AI into a Gamma presentation or website. Darby says he has, so I feel like Darby
Yeah.
could
Oh
answer
yeah,
that one
Darby, you
for
want to
us.
take it?
Give me 1 second.
Oh
Can't do
yeah,
that.
take your time. I'll
But yeah, I think you can move on to the next topic, maybe.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's a good thing that we can come back to that at the end, because I think that's a cool topic. So the other really neat thing that Gamma's been working on is the social carousels. So again, this is born out of customer feedback. They're like, I'm making a carousel, but I really want it to be square. And we're like, you're doing what in Gamma? But people were making such cool stuff that we're like, wow, let's do it. Let's go. I think our examples for the social carousels are pretty funny. So I'm gonna click this one about having terrible backhand in tennis. And 8 is, a standard amount of cards for a social media carousel, but I'm gonna bump it down to 6 because I don't know. I don't need that much advice about tennis. I'm not really a tennis player. Um, so we're gonna get this outline. It's pretty funny. And let's see if you can search by color in here too. So I'm gonna look for a green theme because tennis. And none of these are really like tennis green, but this one's like maybe the closest, it's like yellow. And it's a social carousel, so I'm gonna say keep it brief. And I think the illustrations will be good for this. So we are gonna be on our way, and I'm gonna show you some stuff in page setup in just a moment so that you can learn more about how to customize how your page and your cards look in Gamma. So you can see now that Gamma is creating these square cards because I told it to use square cards. Great for LinkedIn, great for Instagram, whatever kind of social platform you want. But if you want a like more portrait, taller card, you can achieve that in page setup. So we also hover will suggest some of the like formats that these are good for. So if I want it to be portrait, good for LinkedIn, then I could do that. If I want it to be like 9 by 16, so I can post it on like an Instagram story or a TikTok, I can make that change as well. So let's go back to Square for a second and I'll just show you what's going on. Once again, we chose brief text. So Gamma hasn't generated a ton of text on any of these things. They're all pretty short, sweet, to the point, just like you would want a social carousel to be. And this is a great place to add your social handle or whatever at tennis. You can style this however you want. The other couple things to think about here are the sort of base font size is something you can change. So if you want to put more content into your card here, you can change the base font size and everything will scale down. Social artifacts also have a scale content to fit setting on by default. So this will scale the content in your Gamma to make sure it stays within the bounds of the cards. Like I was saying yesterday, Gamma cards have a minimum height, not a maximum. So you can go beyond that height by adding more content. So when you see this dotted line, that tells you where the squareness ends. So now if you export this, then it's going to be long. Just something to know because some people get surprised by this. And like internally, we really like this. It allows you to like stay flexible with your content and not have your content adhere to the physical limitations, the digital physical limitations of the artifact. Your artifact suits the content that you're making. But when you're exporting, sharing a link, sharing a PDF, sometimes this can trip people up. So just a good thing to know. And because this scale to fit setting is on, you can see as I add more lines, my text is scaling down so that it's trying to retain that square ratio as much as possible. So again, Gamma is going to try to do everything it can to do that hard work for you because in a traditional program, you would have to be like scaling all that down yourself. So I can change the base font size to smaller. And this is where some of this like content alignment stuff comes in. So you can change the default alignment for the entire page in here. But say I just want to make this one card bottom aligned, like I can do that as well. So there's a lot of power in here. I would definitely recommend like playing around. If you want your card backdrops, so this like yellow background in this case to show when you export it or present it, you can turn this on. So now that I've turned this on, you'll see a yellow background when I go into preview mode. And this would be the same in present mode. And that is scratching the surface of page setup. Like I said, I would really recommend you just around in here and seeing what happens. We have a lot of different sort of formats and you can just click on presentation or document or like web page or social. And it's a really good demonstration of how your content will transform in Gamma to match the artifact. If you have something that you like, you could also just duplicate it and then try it in a different format and see what you like how you can adapt it. Did you have a question or someone?
Yeah, Allison. So someone saying you're talking about setup and stuff. So there's a question. Are there a range of fonts available so you can easily maintain brand standards
Yeah, totally.
and add a logo to these?
Oh yeah, definitely. With Gamma, your fonts and your branding and your colors and your logo are all going to be controlled by your theme. So when you select text, you're going to get a choice of like sizes here, but you're not going to get a choice of fonts. So the way that you're going to do that is you can get there by clicking on this, and at the bottom it says edit theme fonts, or you can just go directly to the theme. And I'm in a standard theme right now. If I like this and I just want to change the fonts, I can hit customize. And the place where you're going to choose the fonts is in the fonts tab. We have a really nice list of built-in default fonts, and all of these are on Google Fonts. So you are able to them for yourself if you were to export this to, say, Google Slides or PPT or something, or PDF where you need to have those fonts installed on your computer to like display properly. So all of these are like pretty nice fonts that you can use, and they're publicly available. But if you want to upload your own custom font, your brand font, then you can do that here. Now I'm on the dashboard, there's a custom fonts tab down here, and I'm just going to hit upload font family. And once I've done that, I can go back and refresh, and that font will appear in this menu. So it'll just be at the top. And with the colors, you're just going to choose them in here. When you want to upload your brand logo, you can upload it in this tab. So you're just going to drag your logo in, and when you add that logo, it's going to appear on the page. It would appear in this bottom left corner, and when you present, it will appear in the top right over your content. So that is like the easiest way to stay on brand. We love themes. We really recommend them to just make it as easy as possible to stay on brand like across all of your content. Because the beautiful thing is once you make one theme, you can keep using it again and again, and you don't have to keep changing the fonts or changing the colors or changing the logo to your new file. It's just built in with that first theme. Yeah, hopefully that answers the branding question. Something we're passionate about.
Yeah, and their comment was, so it's set up as more of a CSS on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, you can say that.
And
But
that's all I have questions wise.
okay, cool. So I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but when you're ready to share your carousel, you can do that in a couple ways. So you could just send it to someone if you want, share the link, but probably what you're going to do is export it. For most social formats, we would recommend exporting it as a PNG. And when you do this, it's going to export as a zip file that you can just unzip and then post. And now you can also post directly to LinkedIn. So I'm not going to log it to LinkedIn right now, but if I was to, it would just walk me through a flow where at the end, I just have my Gamma carousel post on LinkedIn. A note on the fonts too, in the export step, we will tell you if there are any fonts that you need to install to have things display correctly on other software like PowerPoint. And there's also a link to download these fonts. We try to make it as easy as possible for you. But yeah, as far as exporting like social formats, this is the easiest way to do it. If you try the LinkedIn feature, please let us know what you think. It's pretty new. We're really excited to hear how it's working for people. And yeah, all of this is just to make it as easy as possible for you to get your ideas out there. This yesterday, but you can export a range of cards. You can do that in the share modal here, or you can just select them here. Say maybe I only like these 4 slides. I can just export them. So that's the new social format in a nutshell. I really encourage everyone to play around with it and try it. Super cool. We worked hard on it. We're really excited to like share with the world. And I think that's a good summary of all of the artifacts that we are like focused on right now. So that's websites, presentation, social, and then we also have a document feature, which is basically the presentations, but less images. I have some features that I think would be fun to show you guys, but if you have any other questions, I can do those first.
And we have another question,
Yeah.
in comment really. Instagram has a new feed sizing. It's no longer square. Does Gamma recognize this change?
Yeah, so I mean, we have 4x5 and 9x16 as well. So this should suit the new Instagram feed sizing. And that's reflected in the hover as well. So Instagram posts and LinkedIn carousels. Okay, cool. Let me show you a couple other features. I'm gonna go
Maybe
back to
real
this.
quickly, the
Yeah.
circle back to the question about embedding AI
Oh
into
yeah,
Gamma.
do it.
The workaround that I found, and I wanted to verify that it would work here because
Can you share, Darby?
yeah, let me share my
Yeah, take
screen real
over.
quick. So the problem I ran into initially with a tool like Pickaxe in embedding the Pickaxe tool was you can't embed an entire studio. But then Mike said if you should be able to embed just a single link inside of a studio that someone can interact with. And so while we were doing this, I was testing to make sure it works. So I set up a super simple new gamma for the side hustle game. Here, can you guys see my screen? I want to actually
Yep.
let me quickly unspotlight just to make sure it doesn't jump in the recording. And so there's two embeds I have on this page right now, and I'll show you with the full page what that looks like. We have the first one, which is the playsidehustle.com/game, which takes you directly to play the game online, and that's embedded in here. And then the second is, let's say someone has an idea and they want to create a pitch deck that they'll then take into Gamma. I've embedded a single Pickaxe Studio assistant that I've created for the Side Hustle game here. And so now when I publish these, actually link display, I'm going to embed it and I'm going to play it. So now, and you can do this with I've used one other tool to do this type of embedding and it worked. This is just how it functions right now. I don't have the ability to just add the code in directly as an embed, but when I embed this as a game for a page, all someone needs to do is open up the page here, and now I'm basically interacting with that page through my Gamma. So that's the game. It's already existing, and that's how I can even put a password on this page, and then anyone has that page. But now I went and created a pickaxe. I actually made this pickaxe a few days ago as an experiment. But now I've logged in. I want to sell dog speak to. I think it was your startup yesterday, Allison, dog speak or dog chat, something like that. But you have an idea from the game. You're like, okay, I want to now use AI to do it. So now you can see I'm literally on my same gamma. I haven't left anywhere. Dog collar pitch deck that lets dogs speak, and it's going to interact the same way that I would have my custom pickaxe set up for it to interact. The key here is I've embedded the direct link to my pickaxe, and I've got it set up to where people can just interact with it directly through this link. But right now, that's how I would approach it, and you could embed a link like that potentially. Like the game itself is built on a Webflow, and so I'm basically like embedding a Webflow page for that game, and then I'm interacting with the game inside of Gamma, and then I'm also embedding a Pickaxe Studio GPT link in there, and then someone's able to AI interact on the page. So for the last summit, and we'll probably do this after this next summit, and we have all the recordings out. We'll train a pickaxe on all of our summit content, and then put that as like hey, how to find your next, what content you want to find inside of the summit, and then we'll link back to YouTube for all those videos.
Darby, the demo you just showed, it didn't look seamless. It looked like we moved to a different URL or something like that. It didn't look like you were still on the website.
It didn't take me to a different tab, but it did have an overlay on my screen that
Yeah,
popped up that showed it. And so that's the
I
current
see.
the current difference there is like I would click, oh, you want to play the game, big headline, or use
Yeah,
AI to take your idea to life. And then it's basically taking that page that it's embedded on and it's bringing it front and center.
I see. So what I was envisioning is that for a page that you created in Gamma, you'd be able to see the AI directly on that page without opening up a modal or another
Hmm.
window.
I Yeah, I totally get that. I think we historically have not embeds and iframes be interactable within the page for like performance issues. If you have a lot of these things and they're all interactive by default, that can cause the page to really slow down, and that's the last thing we want for you. If you are interested in having that like functionality, we would love to chat and learn more about what you're trying to do. It's As you saw with the form, here, let me briefly, or let me go back to sharing. Like you saw with the form, that is like an option. Because when you look at this, sorry, I'm moving my Zoom UI. So when you look at this is also an iframe and you can interact directly. So it is something that we can do. The thing about forms is they're pretty lightweight and they don't have much of a performance cost. But for anything that's a little heavier, having that can really like slow things down. So I think we could talk about your use case and what you're trying to do, and if maybe exposing that as like a setting is something that we could explore for users. It's not something we've done
Yeah.
so far. It's not
This,
like a common ask, but it would be good to learn more about your use case.
Allison, I think this would be like a 30-second test. I just put a URL in. If you
Sure.
try pasting that instead of the type form, and
Okay,
let's see what would happen.
find where my Zoom chat went. Here we go. Got it. All right, let's try this.
Okay, now we've got pickaxe right on the page. That's pickaxe.
Okay, cool. So let's publish that. You can go back to that URL that I posted in the chat earlier. Yeah, so this is going to open as an embed. I'm going to take this feedback back to the team and chat about it. Thank you for sending me this link because this is helpful. It'll give us something to talk about internally. But I think your use case makes sense. I definitely understand why you'd want this to just live in the page and not open in a.
Yeah.
Allison, if I could just comment on that, because I also was confused for a moment when Darby popped that up. And at a minimum, for me, I would like to see an easy way from a customer point of view. If it's too heavy a penalty in terms of speed, I'd like to see, at least from a customer point of view, a clearer way of knowing that I'm still in the same place and how to get back to the previous site. I didn't even see the close button at first. That just seemed to magically appear. And so I'd be like, okay, where am I? What am I doing if I was a customer?
Yeah, totally. This is great feedback. This is why these webinars are really fun because we get to talk to you guys live and pick your brains live. Yeah, I'm gonna take this back to my design team and we can chat about that. I think this is a really good call out. And historically, these embeds are mostly used for things like YouTube videos. That's how we started with them. And they've evolved into something much more now. They have a lot more responsibility. And I think you're pointing out rightly that with that responsibility comes like a need for more clarity around like where the end user is at.
Allison,
Yeah.
another very common use case that I think would remove a small but like important amount of friction is even just getting an email opt-in newsletter. Like because I ran into the same thing with the last summit on the Gamma site. People were
Mm,
opting in through a Beehive embedded form that would work, but then that was technically taking them to like our site. We weren't sending them anywhere after the fact, but just being able to just simply enter your email without opening up a tab
yeah,
would
totally.
make it so much easier to start setting those back end like email follow-up campaigns and make it a little bit more seamless. So I think that is an immediate use case that I know I would love to see just personally. And then in the
Yeah.
same line about Japbots within the screen is also like that little button you could also have a pickaxe that just embeds on the very bottom corner so that you can open up and now you've got the AI being able to interact on your page. That's
Oh, yeah, like a sort of like a bot
like a
back
help
in
bot
there.
sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. That's actually feedback that we've gotten and we're knocking around that
Hmm.
technically it's a little bit more complicated than making these embeds a little more streamlined. But we definitely have heard that. I think when we're ready to think more about it, we'll definitely reach out to you, Darby, and anyone else in this network
Yeah, I
who,
know what it can do and
but yeah,
so powerful already.
I love your guys' input. I think this is so helpful for us to know what to focus on. Does anyone else? I think we have about 7 minutes left. I like that you guys have things that you want to ask. Is there anything else I can cover that's interesting to you guys? I know what like I think is cool, but I want to make sure this is helpful for you.
If
Omar,
there's not somebody else, I have a question.
Yeah.
sure.
So I gave you a URL in the chat to a website that I created in a rush. And as I explained earlier in the chat, because I wasn't happy with what was happening on our website and it was just taking too long to develop, and I was in the middle of trying to launch an event, I just basically created an external document that described what I wanted the website to look like, including my colors, my hex colors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what it came up with. Super simple, but I absolutely loved it. It nailed it. Most of the images were created by Gamma, and some of them were pulled from our main site and from our international partners. We were able to download those, do some editing, etc. Where we ran into trouble is that I wanted this to be my homepage, yes, and to be able to seamlessly go back and forth between this and the other parts of my site, which I
Yeah.
found impossible to do. I actually had to almost separate that process out for the sake of people visiting my site, because it was you either go to the homepage or you go to the rest of the site. I couldn't figure out the menuing inside of Gamma to get them to the other parts of the website. I just wonder, is there going to be a better way of integrating Gamma sites to your own URL when you have existing content?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I can take this one, Allison.
Oh
I
yeah, go
think
for it.
in this case, custom domains, if you're pointing your entire custom domain to Gamma, we take over the entire custom domain. There's no way to selectively say only this folder goes to Gamma, and then but the rest of the site goes to my existing site. I would recommend in your situation to just set up like a Gamma or some alternative subdomain. So if yours was like dancechallenge.com, set up a gamma.dancechallenge.com just for this landing page and still direct it to your like main site dancechallenge.com like separately without having to touch it. That would be
That's
my
quite a good
recommend.
idea.
Yeah, you could easily set if you have the domain and control of it, you have control of all the subdomains. So in your site settings, just type in whatever subdomain you want, and the Gamma's automatic or manual setup will walk you through how to do that.
Awesome. And then just the last question, when I typed this into the chat as well. If you scroll to the top, that very first image, you can see that the text is cut off. And what was interesting, when I first gave this to Gamma, it gave me that image. I did some editing, brought it back into Gamma, and it framed it so that all of that text was perfectly in the frame. And I really liked that. Then I did some editing to the copy on the right-hand side, tried to resize it, and then suddenly I lost control of that beautiful framing, and this was all I could come up with. I couldn't figure out how to get it to resize that image so that text stayed inside of the frame. And I just wonder, where are the controls for that? It seems like you either size to fit or you take whatever Gamma gives you.
It sounds like you found this feature, right? The scale to fit.
Yes, yes, that's the one. But when I first imported the image, it already gave me the size that I liked. When I
Interesting.
try to use scale to fit, what ends up happening is it shrinks the entire image, which is a square image, and then it doesn't look anywhere near as good.
Yeah, totally. I think I would have to understand a little bit more about how things are set up. Um normally what I recommend people play with, which it sounds like you already did, is this like scale to fit setting and dragging the image size here based on the published site. It like looks like you already did play with that. I think, let's see, I'd have to think a little bit more about what the right path is here. Sorry, from a design perspective, how to solve this for you, like permanently.
I understand I could obviously just create a new image that would,
Yeah, I know, but I hate telling you that because that's like more fuss stuff. Also, this event looks really fun, by the way. I don't know. I wanted to like say
it was
that
awesome.
too.
I got to tell you that this site excited me and the rest of my team because it was exactly what we were trying to produce on our main site and just couldn't do it fast enough. And I was like,
Yeah,
holy cow, this is great.
that's like exactly why we made Gamma. Yeah, Omar, let's like dig into this a little bit more. I think it would be great to gather a little more feedback about what happened here because it sounds like we got pretty close and there were just some things that like weren't working and like we definitely want to understand how we can do everything, get it to 100% for you. Thank you guys for having us. I really enjoyed demoing to you guys. I really enjoyed your like, questions. They're very thoughtful. And sometimes the questions that you get are like pretty basic, but you guys ask really awesome questions. So appreciate that and gave some great feedback. And I had fun. I hope you did too. There's so much more to explore with Gamma, and I hope you guys get in there and play around and let us know what you think. But Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Confirming you won't be on tomorrow. Will we have?
I probably will not be, but I'll let you know.
All right. If you are, then we look forward to seeing you. We got tomorrow as the day 3, which last year we had that kind of that design competition.
Yeah, that was
But
fun.
yeah,
Uh,
for anyone here, check out Gamma. Code AI Summit gets you a month of pro free. Go to
yeah, do it.
gamma.app. And how's the best way to get in contact with you, Allison, or the Gamma team for feedback and to reach out with questions?
I think there's a couple of, I don't know, Darby, if you don't mind fielding any of it, but we also have this, I can't see my URL bar here. But if you go to ideas.canny, wait, if you go to, here we go. This is the best way to do this. If you go in Gamma, you click on this bubble and you hit share feedback, then you can post your idea or share some feedback with the team. If you say that you were in the Scale with AI Summit, then that helps a lot, and I will be able to reach out to you directly from here.
Awesome. And yeah, guys, make sure you're posting these questions in the community too. You know,
Definitely.
if there are questions that maybe someone else has solved already, then we could support through um, the community container. And then of course as well, in between now and the next summit. Allison, it's been a pleasure having you guys
Yeah, it's
on.
been
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thanks, Harvey. See ya.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Fun interactive session, learning a little bit more about Gamma, some of the capabilities and some of what the future may hold for that tool, bringing your ideas to life.